church for this Agape Sunday. My name is Micah, my pronouns are they and them, and I have the honor of serving here as senior minister alongside Reverend Bridget Anthony, who unfortunately is not with us today. And I also love Agape because it's like it still takes us a second to even settle into space. I love this noise. I love it so, so much. And that's not even like spiritual bypassing. Like I actually love the hum of the sound in this space on Agape Sunday. But I don't want you to miss the message that unfortunately Reverend Bridget is not feeling well today. I do believe that she'll be joining us in the online diaspora, so we'll be able to see her perhaps on the wall later. But let's just send a ton of extra good energy to Reverend Bridget right now because she's not feeling so hot right now. So she is also protecting us by not being here with us. She's our resident minister for arts and worship, so it feels especially disorienting to not have her here with me. I've gotten used to her being part of worship with me and with us. So thank you for sending energy, and hopefully she'll be back next week. And before we dive into today's service, I want to offer a few housekeeping notes in the shape of an invitation. So, I welcome you, even though we've got some nervous agape energy moving through the space, go ahead and just settle in this space right now. Just allow your breath to begin to steady, because no matter how you have entered this space today, it is a place for you. If you have entered this space today filled with fear and anxiety regarding this country's future, regarding this world's future, this is a place for you. If you have entered this space today exhausted from phone banking or canvassing or voting or mailing or protesting, this is a place for you. If you just can't bring yourself to understand how to move through this next week, this is a place for you. If you have entered this space with radical, abundant hope about this next week, this is also a place for you. If your spirit is still broken from something you saw in your news feed this morning, from the trains being delayed, from this amazing marathon that happens every morning, from a conversation that you had with somebody this past week, from a relationship that seems to be rocky or dissolving over something that feels very intimate to the two of you, or something huge and outside of you, whatever you are carrying on your shoulders, you are welcome here, and this is a place for you. We are sitting at our agape tables this morning, not just as a regular ritualistic exercise, although it is also a regular ritualistic exercise, and if you've never been to Judson, soon you will know exactly what agape means to all of us. But when we sit at our agape tables, it is an active exercise of embodied resistance to despair. So, if you have entered this space today hoping that you will sit at an agape table as an act of embodied resistance to despair, you are welcome in this space, and it's a space for you. These tables are for remembering ourselves, not just in the way that we hold memories, but in the way that we can actively remember the things that have been torn apart by empire, and in all of the various empires of this world, we can put ourselves back together through collective positive obsession with collective liberation. We are extending the physical agape table out to all of our Judson diaspora folks. So take a moment and turn to that camera right there and wave hello to the Judson diaspora, because we're not just sitting at table, but they have their own tables there. And we're so happy that you are here and extending all of the tables out to wherever you sit, because this ofrenda here as well is extending the power of our agape table, and it is for remembering as well. I hope that you will take the gift that our beloved congregant Miriam has given us by creating this ofrenda and come up to this altar, whether you have brought a photo of someone, whether you have brought something to share or not. Just make sure that before you leave today, you take a look at all of the beautiful souls that are in this space just because of this simple act that Miriam did last week and brought into our space. Because today is a day not only for leaning into what is about to happen this next week, but it is also a day where we are observing Dia de los Muertos, and each of us are also bringing other traditions into this space. So maybe some Samhain over at this table, maybe some All Saints Day over at this table, some All Souls Day at a table back there. Whatever you brought to this space, we're in a liminal space where all of those traditions are mixing together in this place. So may this next hour be an hour of remembering ourselves, no matter how we have entered this place. May we not turn away from the brokenness of the world and the fractures and fascism that we fear, but may we commit right now to reshaping our fears and anxieties into a positive obsession with not only seeking, but actively co-creating a different way. And to start us off, Reverend Lisa, why don't you come up to this place and read for us our land acknowledgement and commitment to action.
Good morning, Judson. It's great to be here, and I forgot my glasses. So let's see how this goes. Judson's physical space stands on the ancestral land of the Munsee Lenape people. Our community acknowledges the Lenape community, their elders both past and present, as well as future generations. And we make this acknowledgement as only one part of our work to dismantle the ongoing myth-spinning legacies of Christian supremacy, settler colonialism, and white supremacy. We also commit to change. Everything you touch, you change. Everything you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. Therefore, if we refuse to change, we run the risk of being godless. But if we will commit to looking back at where we've been, looking honestly at who we are, and looking forward to who we can become, we might just touch God. We believe this truth, and belief initiates and guides action, or it does nothing. So, what does community look like in the face of this truth? What does commitment look like in the face of this truth? What does the future look like in the face of this truth? We not only acknowledge the past, but we commit to present action. Our futures await our willingness to change. Amen.
So as I noted, today we are focusing on the final tool of our toolkit in our season of radical hope, and that is positive obsession. And if you have entered this space and sort of are wondering what in the world is positive obsession, I promise that we will get to that eventually. But positive obsession also dovetails with the fact that this is Volunteer Appreciation Sunday. We have some volunteers who are not even with us in this space today, but I want you to look around this room. Pay attention to the corners of this room, the place where there's food and drink on the table. Make eye contact with folks that you know, folks that you don't know, and recognize the loving labor that has poured into the act of simply making this space and this place. It is a losing game, truly, to try to actually list all of the volunteers. So I actually made a choice a couple of days ago to not try to make a full list, okay? So you are welcome, but I'm also saying you're welcome to yourself so that I will only get in a mild degree of trouble later from somebody who I have forgotten. But even though I know I will inevitably leave someone out, I want us to hear some names just as we are entering this space. I want to specifically highlight Asia Harris's weekly work on our bulletin. I want to acknowledge Ted Dawson's work coordinating our Flower Power Beauty, Suresh Dayanand, Lance Philadelphia, Linda Safan, Ruby Rims, and our Congregational Life Committee coordinating our greeters, our coffee hour volunteers, and our agape setup and cleanup, our board co-led by the amazing Laura Jane Kenny and TJ Burkett, and this board filled with 12 souls who constantly pour so much energy into helping us to be who we are and become who we know we need to be. Our committees, including what we call standing committees, our buildings, finance, membership, and personnel committees, and our task forces, including our immigration task force and our pledge campaign task force, whose work is often invisible on this Sunday, But let's take a moment. I'm not even letting us go into our ritual yet without acknowledging the very, very invisible threads that connect us all through the sheer volunteerism that keep this place going. Our Zoom facilitators for Sunday service, our prayer and meditation circles, and our scripture studies, the volunteers who keep our Monday Mutual Aid and Judson Arts Wednesdays programs cooking. In times like these, I need to focus on the actual positive obsession that keeps people doing those kinds of things. Raise your hand if you think you have done something to volunteer for Judson sometime in the past year. Okay. We are sowing a culture of gratitude. I know that in times like these, it can feel like we need to just gloss over the things that we're doing in this space just to hold it together, but I know that all of us are also barely holding it together as we enter this week. So can we decide to lean into the positive obsession that keeps all of us coming back to this space, pouring our energy in, and making and modeling the actual kingdom of God that we wish to see in the world? Speaking of volunteerism, we are going to go into our ritual. You might have noticed that our beloved Henco is not here and that our beloved piano is shoved back into the corner there, awaiting his return in a couple of weeks. But we have some amazing super volunteers who are about to come up, and they're going to lead us through some group singing throughout this service. We've chosen some selections that you'll see threaded throughout your bulletin just so that we can sing together as we sit at these tables and try to remember who we are as a community, as a larger community beyond these walls. So inch by inch, row by row, we're going to keep making this garden grow. Jenny Selig, come on up. Sevrin Ann Mason, come on up. Rikki Will, come on up. Sarah Nelson Kraft, come on up and lead us through our first song.
Inch by inch, row by row, gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. Inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds I sow. Someone warm them from below till the rain comes tumbling down. Pulling weeds, picking stones, we are made of dreams and bones. Feel the need to grow my own, 'cause the time is close at hand. Grain for grain, sun and rain, find my way in nature's chain. Tune my body and my brain to the music from the land. Plant your rows straight and long, temper them with prayer and song. Mother Earth will meet
As we move through Dia de los Muertos and through Samhain and All Souls Day and All Saints Day, this is a prayer for a remembered death. I was hemming and hawing about my fears. Will my body be safe? Will my mind be safe? Will my heart and my lungs be safe? Should I make this choice? Should I raise my voice? Should I put my privilege and my life on the line? And my sweet sister smiled and said, I once met a woman who shared that when her fear for her own life started to pull her back from actually living, she stopped and said to herself, I am already dead. And my brain broke open. I am already dead. I am dust and I am stardust, a fragile collection of glitter crumbs, ages old, already honed by countless supernovas who decided to come together and dance for a short, sacred time as one magical, me-made shape. My cells and my soul will move together until the moment they tear apart and drift off to become another star, another shape, another fear-filled, already dead, living thing. So live. You are already dead. And every tiny, shiny particle that makes up your parts knows how to dance a revolution because they've done it all, endured it all, and danced it all before. You are new, and you are infinite, and you are finite, and that is freedom. So move with the courage of the supernovas who continue to shape this world. You were born to die like the brave beings who have blazed before, who looked fear in the eye and said, I am already dead, so I'm going to go out living. You are dust and you are stardust, and to both will you return. So turn it out while you're here. Feel the fear, but also feel the fire that is not only burning you alive, but burning you to life. Amen.
Please join me in singing Imagine. The words are in your bulletin.
everyone. Good morning. My name is Miriam, Miri. I use she, her pronouns. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of a reading before I do my ancient testimony reading. So Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, is a very vibrant, personally Mexican holiday. I'm from Mexico. Honoring deceased loved ones through traditions that blend indigenous practices with Catholic influences. It is rooted in indigenous beliefs. The celebration dates back to pre-Columbian times, when the Mesoamerican civilizations like the Nahuas, the Toltecs, the Aztecs viewed death as a natural part of the life cycles. These cultures honored their ancestors through rituals and offerings, believing the spirits of the deceased return each year to visit the living. When Spanish colonizers arrived in the 16th century, they introduced Catholic customs, including All Saints and All Souls Day, which overlapped with indigenous festivals held in early November. Over time, these observances merged, giving rise to the modern Dia de los Muertos. And while Catholic iconography and symbols like crosses and saints are now woven into the holiday, many elements remain deeply indigenous. Altars or ofrendas are adorned with marigolds, incense, candles, and photos of loved ones, creating a welcoming space for the spirits. Food, especially pan de muerto, and mementos are also placed on these altars, celebrating the life and the personality of the deceased. Today, Dia de los Muertos is a joyful celebration of life, memory, and continuity. And while recognized throughout Latin America, its Mexican expressions is iconic, marked by colorful parades. But colorful parades, family gatherings, and intimate moments of reflection. And this tradition honors the death and the living, bridging generations and keeping memories alive. So yeah, thank you so much for taking part of this and honoring your loved one. Okay, so ancient testimony, Psalm 23, the Message and the New Revised Standard Versions. God, my shepherd, I don't need a thing. You have bedded me down in lush meadows. You find me quiet pools to drink from. True to your word, you let me catch my breath and set me in the right direction. Even when the way goes through the death valley, I'm not afraid when you walk at my side. Your trusty shepherd's crook makes me feel secure. You serve me a 6-course dinner right in front of my enemies. You revive my drooping head. My cup springs with blessings. Your beauty and love chase after me every day of my life. I'm back home in the house of God for the rest of my life.
Good morning, everybody. Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures. God leads me beside still waters. God restores my soul. God leads me in right paths for God's name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long.
Seems that maybe Lauren has been delayed by the marathon, but I want to make sure before I take up more space. Lauren Andrews, I don't see you in the space. Okay, let's send good energy to Lauren as she makes her way to the space, and I will read a Samhain Blessing by Alexander Cleveland Cox. There is a world in which we dwell, and yet a world invisible. And do not think that naught can be, save only what with eyes ye see. I tell ye that this very hour, had but your sight a spirit's power, ye would be looking eye to eye at a terrific company.
Good morning, Judson, Eli, they, he. This is an Earthseed verse from the Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. God is change, and in the end, God prevails. But meanwhile, kindness eases change. Love quiets fear, and a sweet and powerful positive obsession blunts pain, diverts rage, and engages all of us in the greatest, the most intense of our chosen struggles. Thank you.
Let's sing together again. You'll find the words for Stand By Me in your bulletin. When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see, no, I won't be afraid, no, I won't be afraid, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, or the mountains should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me, oh, stand by me, stand by me, darling, darling, stand by me, oh, stand by me, stand by me, stand by me.
May I say what I need to say, and may you hear what you need to hear. Amen. So here is the gospel truth. I am looking out at a room full of positively obsessed people. I also know that I am looking out at a room full of fearful, anxiety-addled people. And there are no binaries here. To do another mic here. All right. I get to do some Judy Garland then, okay? Wow. Beautiful. Okay. I promise not to go into Judy too often, but there are no binaries here. You can be both someone who is actively, even positively and obsessively embodying hope, and someone who is riddled with fear and grief and anxiety. You are both at the same time, always, but especially right now. Even if you have never heard or considered the phrase positive obsession before, I would wager that you are already actively embodying it. Heck, just by being a part of this community at Judson, where many of us like to say that we are a community of radical hope, where we like to say that we embody our faith through social justice action, you are already actively leaning into this positive obsession phrase coined by St. Octavia E. Butler in her Parable of the Sower series. And St. Octavia defines positive obsession using these words found in your bulletin's meditation quotation. Obsession can be a useful tool if it's positive obsession. Using it is like aiming carefully in archery. Decide what you want, aim high, go for it. And there is a pretty consistent tradition here at Judson of deciding what we want, aiming high, and going for it. We've done it when women's bodily autonomy was being threatened, when sex workers were being dehumanized, when queer people were being dismissed, when immigrants were being derided. Every single initiative that this community has birthed throughout our history has grown out of a positive obsession with pinpointing needs, listening to those most marginalized, and then reshaping our own fears and anxieties into positive obsession and faithful, radically hopeful action. And wouldn't you know it, every single thing that I just named, every single thing that we have fought for so positively, so obsessively, every single one of those things is currently at the center of the battles of this Tuesday's presidential election. And I don't know about you, but lately I have been erring on the side of not using my obsession positively. I instead obsessively scroll through my various news feeds. I obsess over the current existential and concrete threats to our democracy in this country and many other countries. I obsess over the threats to our immigrant neighbors, threats to communities of color, threats to our LGBTQIA+ communities, threats to women's bodily autonomy. I obsess over genocidal violence, which our government still seems determined to aid and abet. I obsess over the rise of fascism and Christian nationalism, and I obsess over how I can even own the word Christian as an adjective for myself, when that word has come to represent very real harm and continuing threats to all of the values that I and my community hold dear. I do not know always what to do with these obsessions. I don't always know what to do with this uncontainable energy that's flowing through my body in desperate need of a place to go. But then I think of the words of St. Fred Rogers, and suddenly I know where my obsessive energy needs to go. Decades ago, Mr. Rogers said the following: when I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, "Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping." And folks, I am seeing scary things in the news. We are seeing scary things in the news. There are scary things happening in the world that our mainstream media isn't actually accurately even covering. But I am not simply making naive things up when I tell you I am looking out at all of you, and I am looking out at a room full of radically, positively obsessed helpers. I have phone banked with many of you. I have canvassed with many of you. I have written and stamped postcards with many of you. I have protested with many of you, and I will repeat, you are a room full of radically, positively obsessed helpers. And I also, as your pastor, know that you are all balancing your positive obsessions with your own obsessive worry about what is going to happen this coming Tuesday and this coming week and these coming few weeks, these coming years. And I know that the balance between positive obsession and negative worry-filled obsession tips back and forth minute by minute, because I get your emails and I get your calls. I am regularly witnessing a variety of trauma responses within and beyond this building. So what can we do in this space right now to hold ourselves through this continuing balancing act? We have done and are doing our parts to get folks to vote. We have done and are doing our parts to ensure that we are co-creating a spiritual community that will hold and sustain us no matter what happens this Tuesday or far beyond. We have done and are doing our parts to use this building that we lovingly steward as a gathering place for organizing and activism and creativity no matter what happens this Tuesday or far beyond. And it might feel very difficult to lean into trust right now, but as your pastor, that is what I am asking you to do today. Because you have done and you are doing everything in your power to fill this world with positive obsession right now. So, how does it feel to be asked by your pastor to lean into trust right now? Are you furious with me? Well, it's not just me asking you to do that leaning. It is not just me asking you to do that trust fall. Our ancient sacred texts also ask you to do that. Exhibit A, Psalm 23. I trust that you've all heard at least some words from this psalm in some form before, probably at a funeral or 10. You might have even had to memorize it at some point. I know that I did, PK here. Maybe, like me, you memorized the King James Version, which has far more flowery words and images that can feel a bit more dramatic than the words in the Message version that Miri read, or the New Revised Standard Version that MaryJo read. But regardless of which version you've known, and regardless of whether you call that scary space we are all moving through the darkest valley, or Death Valley, or the Valley of the Shadow of Death, thanks to the Christian supremacy in this country, Psalm 23's imagery has probably burrowed its way into the archives of your memory in some form. And get this, Psalm 23 is referenced by many scriptural scholars as a psalm of trust. Because there are lots of other types of psalms, and I could have brought them in, but I brought Psalm 23, okay? Some psalms are beautiful proclamations of praise. Some psalms are cries of lament, but trust psalms take a very simple and specific form. Yes, they are basically prayers spoken in the midst of a crisis, but instead of focusing on the lament and the complaint and the problem and the fear and the anxiety and the trauma, trust psalms are chock full of potent, poetic declarations of unquestioned trust in God. So yes, Psalm 23 doesn't shy away from naming that messy, dark valley that we're all moving through right now, but it also refuses to let us stay sunk in the doomed depths of that valley. Every other line of Psalm 23 is about radical trust and radical hope and radical persistent obsession, because no matter how you feel about that God word, Psalm 23 tells us that God, or whatever word you want to substitute, source of love, source of hope, creative hands of the universe, this God force is positively obsessed with us. Wants the best for us, wants to comfort us, accompany us, and empower us to the best version of us that we can be. This God force is modeling positive obsession with us in order to inspire us to find the place, the people, the causes that need our positive obsession. So we're going to do a little positive obsession exercise right now. There's a grounding practice that I like to lead here at Judson whenever we're starting a social justice organizing meeting. And it seems appropriate to do a version of that exercise with all of you today, this day when we're observing All Saints' Day, All Souls' Day, Samhain, and Dia de los Muertos, this day when we've invited all of you to bring offerings to this beautiful ofrenda, this day that we set aside to celebrate the volunteerism that keeps this community going. When I start a social justice organizing meeting here at Judson, I ask that each of the meeting's participants choose one person to whom they would like to dedicate that meeting. I ask that they choose one person whose positive obsession, whose embodied activism, whose commitment to radical hope inspires their own positive obsession, their own continuing embodied activism, their own continuing commitment to radical hope. And I want you to do that right now, today. We're going to have a little extended time in just a few minutes for you to get to talk with one another. And you see the questions written on your tables and in your bulletin. Where are you putting your energy? Where are you putting your energy, and who is at the table with you? And I, of course, mean who is physically at the table with you, but I also mean who are the people who have gone before you and paved the way for your own organizing and activism? Who are the individuals whose positive obsession and energy still inspires your continuing action in the world? Because it's amazing to me how much a church congregation can also feel like a country. And it's amazing how the task of trying to inspire radical hope in a time of deep collective trauma like this can feel like an impossible one. Sometimes I get whiplash from the sheer disparateness of what is being asked of this place and of this pulpit. And all of this has humbled me into the deep knowledge that I will never say or do anything from this pulpit that will be everything to everyone. And that hard-won wisdom has taught me that the one thing I am called to do from this pulpit is to point your passion toward the places that need your positive obsession. And to tell you to aim high and to go for it. I am called to tell you that you are part of a continuing movement, and that a movement only remains a movement if it keeps moving. Because I do not know what is going to happen this coming Tuesday, or what is going to happen after Tuesday. What I do know is that we have done our work. We are doing our work. We will have lots more work to do in the future, and we were made for a time like this. So maybe you've come here today fearing that you haven't done your part, or fearing that you haven't put your energy in the right place, or fearing that the power of so many who are allowing their own fear and xenophobia and racism and homophobia and misogyny to guide their own votes, and that those votes will overshadow your vote, no matter what. Every day, you have the choice to wake up again and to reach out and decide where your energy needs to go, and to aim high and to go for it. Because if we look back at the words from Mr. Rogers, there's actually an added layer to what he's actually saying. Amidst all the scary things, as we're looking for the helpers and connecting our own positive obsession with the positive obsession of those helpers, we actively become the helpers that we wish to see in the world. We actively keep becoming the ones who we think we're waiting for. I am positively obsessed with this place, and with you people, and with the work that we are called to do together. We are a positively obsessed us that is constantly becoming. And as St. Octavia says, kindness eases change. Love quiets fear, and a sweet and powerful positive obsession blunts pain, diverts rage, and engages each of us in the greatest, the most intense of our chosen struggles. We are in the most intense struggle that I have known in my lifetime. And so many of you have told me that we are in the most intense struggle that you have known in your lifetime, and still the work actually remains the same. Trust that your radical hope can be embodied through positive obsession, and the us that we are always becoming together will spread. This isn't a country club that you sit in and just get spiritually nourished so that you can then go out and just enjoy the rest of your life. We are people who find our faith in positively obsessed social justice action. But I want to assure you, if you feel like this week you need to rest for a moment, do it, because the work continues. It will continue. Earlier this week, I decided to vote early, and I prepared to walk down to my polling site. And I decided that I needed to send a prayer out into the universe as I filled in the bubbles on my ballot. And that prayer is printed in your bulletin. And I invite you to use it in whatever way will be helpful for you. Memorize it, cut it out and put it in your mirror, crumple it up and eat it. I don't care what you do. Whether you have voted already or whether you are preparing to vote, I offer this little prayer from my heart to yours. This is a prayer for the bubbles on this ballot. May you be so filled with the ink of this pen that the hope I pour into you spills over, flowing out past the walls of my privacy booth, spreading until it touches the heart, then the hand, then the vote of everyone in this place, becoming bubbles that do more than register data, floating high enough to surprise, tickling noses and modeling how to dance a revolution, clinging one to another, admitting fear of fragility, opening wider and wider, encircling us in bigger shapes beyond what myopic human imaginations can conjure, reminding us that there is an us bubbling somewhere beneath it all, even and especially when partitioned off. Amen. We are going to do a few things now. As we always do on Agape Sunday, we're going to now gather something to eat and something to drink. If you have felt turned away from a communion table in the past and you're wondering, can I do this? You are very welcome. Gather something to eat and something to drink for our formal communion moment. But we're also going to talk with one another and continue to build our positive obsession. For those of you online, I invite you to share in the chat the names of those who have gone before you, the names of those spirits who are in the space with you now. And those of you who are at physical tables, don't just grab something to eat and drink. Answer the questions for one another. Where are you putting your energy and who is at the table with you? These are our questions for this moment and far beyond. So tell one another the stories of whose positive obsession inspires your own. Let's reshape our radical hope by telling stories of the helpers and reminding ourselves that we actually are those helpers. So aim high, go for it, and I'll pull us back together in just a few minutes. Do it. Okay. I love hearing that hum continuing, but I also want to take this moment, call out, who have you brought to the table? Who's at the table? Call out the name. Call out the name. Loudly. Beautiful, keep them coming. Call them to the table. The person who inspires your positive obsession, Jenny. Beautiful. Beautiful. Lee Hancock, Rabbis for Ceasefire. John Weir. Environmental activist Karen. Michaelia. Doris Diether, back to the table. No. William Barber. Lisa and Bill, who? Reverend Lee Hancock, back to the table. Bill. I Monk. Tai. K Monk. Kai Monk. Beautiful. Angela Davis. Miri. Dorothy Bolden. I saw, what was the hand over here? Tequila. Sonia, what is the last name? Sonia Pierre. Pete Seeger. Andy. Desmond Tutu. The Woodbine Collective. Okay, Jane. Jean Montreville. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to keep this going, but Jane, go ahead. Liz Cheney. Okay. Who else? Joni Mitchell. Jimmy Carter. We have a terrific company surrounding us at this table, okay? Does everybody have what they need to eat and what they need to drink? Okay. On the night that we remember during this ritual, we don't know what was happening. We know that there are myths and stories that were handed down to us. And this is a story that we hold in this space and in this tradition. We don't know what was said, but we think that Jesus was sitting around with all of his friends, and they had been eating and drinking, and that he lifted up a loaf of bread because he knew that the Roman Empire was coming for him, maybe for all of them. Because you can't try to spread a revolution of love and radical hope in the world without all of the systems of empire deciding, oh, that's the person who needs to die. So he lifted up a loaf of bread and he broke it. And he said, take and eat this bread. As I break it, it represents all of the broken bodies that have come before me and will come after me. It also represents my body that might soon be broken for you. Whenever you eat of it, do it in remembrance of me and the promises that we're making together tonight. Let's eat together. And then in the same way, Jesus lifted up a cup, and he might have said, this might look like some normal cup, but this is a cup of radical hope and a positive obsession. No matter what happens tomorrow or far beyond, we are making a promise tonight that no matter how much empire comes for us, no matter how many bodies may be broken, no matter how much blood may be spilled, we will love one another as I have loved you. Let's drink together. We also like to think that they were show queens and that they sang together after. So Jenny, lead us through another song.
Let's do Rainbow Connection together. If you know this one, there's a key change. We're going to do the key change. Why are there so many songs about rainbows? And what's on the other side?
Now is the moment in our service where you will see old-fashioned baskets being passed around the physical space. We welcome, if you'd like to give by cash or check to keep this place, these people, these programs going, you're welcome to give as you are able. There's also multiple ways to give online listed in your bulletin. All of those in the diaspora, you will see that in your bulletin and shared in the chat as well. And it's also my honor to welcome up one member of our Pledge Task Force, and that's Andrew Moore. So Andrew Moore, come on up and tell us why you give.
Andrew Moore, he, him pronouns. I did not mention that yet last week. I realized that. Yeah, I mean, talk about one of the more positively obsessed people regarding Judson. You're looking at him. I swear I was going to give a better